Bishop Philip Kitoto currently serves as the General Superintendent of the Kenya Assemblies of God, leading a denomination of close to 4,000 churches. He is also the Chancellor of KAG East University. He started his ministry work at International Christian Center, serving in various capacities, and in 2007 took over as the senior pastor. He is married to Mrs. Dinah Kitoto, who currently serves as manager of Bali Christian Schools. In the past, she worked with Rusinga International School for 22 years. He and Dinah enjoy writing and as a result have published 4 marriage books, co-authored with others 3 discipleship books, amongst other resources. Bishop Kitoto is also a regular columnist in the Daily Nation on issues of relationships and marriage. Bishop and Mrs. Kitoto have been married for 37 years, are blessed with 3 grown children and 2 grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly welcome to the stage Bishop Philip and Dinah Kitoto.
Let's rise up on our feet as we welcome our General Superintendent. Tusimame tumkaribishe askofu.
You may be seated. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pastor Gibson. They say that these gadgets must be set. Let me bring to you, ladies and gentlemen, my beautiful wife, my friend, my confident. When I want to cry, we cry together. So, yeah, we've really grown together with this girl. She is the best I would want in a friend. So, I love you, my dear.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning, church. It is such a pleasure to be here together, to just learn how we can grow together. And that is why we have the first session titled Growing Together, the Power of Partnerships. And growing together is not something that you come into ministry knowing how to do it, but it's something that you learn along the way as you are in ministry. And we shall be focusing more so on spouses. Because when you are in ministry and you are married, team member number 1, as we say with the bishop here, is your spouse. And what a good member to start with before you start having other team members at your workplace or at church. So we are going to look at growing together and the power of partnerships. But we shall start by reading Genesis chapter 1, verse 27 and 28. God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and over every living creature that moves on the ground." And with that, we are going to look at the command, just to summarize the command that God gave to man, and I will leave it to my husband to continue.
You know, one time I used to think that this was just about reproduction, multiplying children, filling the earth with children. But I didn't realize when we used to talk with you that the image of God in our children, the image of God in our marriage needed to be multiplied in the earth. And I think we took this very seriously and decided to see that the fruitfulness that God called us to live in the earth and the multiplication and the productivity he required was out of this union should multiply the godliness, should multiply through our children, through the works of our hands, and through everything that we do. And a couple becomes successful when each spouse starts to commit to some things. Yeah, what are some of these things that a couple should commit to?
I think a couple should commit to move together as a team and then prioritize their spouse and have a clear vision in mind and commit to a healthy home environment. And we shall be highlighting what those means in a moment.
I think when you look at moving together as a team, two people come together. They are individuals, but they are attracted because there is something common to both of them. And this common thing between them could be, I like your hair, I like your face, you look like you can sit in my house and I can be happy. But then I discovered that those things, some of them are very selfish and temporal. Although they help form team, they are tested with time.
That's right.
But then we come to the big things, which is we need to connect because of something that will outlive us.
That's right.
Something that when testing comes, we are able to remember we are a team.
And that thing is the spiritual connection.
And that's why actually the Bible says that husbands love as Christ
That's right.
loves the church. So Christ becomes this fast connection that draws us together that we can never underrate. And it tells wives to
Submit as Christ submits to the Father.
amazing, isn't it? So marriage then becomes an earthly relationship that is lived according to spiritual principles.
That's right.
Amazing that earthly creatures called to reflect godliness through their relationship. And then Paul begins to look at that relationship and says, it is symbolic to the relationship between Christ and the church. Why? Because Christ is foundational. And I think I get a bit worried, honey, when we begin to relate based on money, we relate based on children, we relate based on, things that are very temporal.
And those things are passing away.
They are. They are. And when they do, we really don't have anything to relate to, isn't it?
That's right.
I'm just thinking about us and our kids, They have all moved out.
Yes. They didn't pass away, but they moved out. So the money and all other things are passing away. Our kids are passing through.
Yeah.
So if we relate on the kids, when they pass through, you are left the two of us like us.
And can you imagine, those like 5 hours we are in the house, we used to talk about children and all these things, and then you discover the kids are not there to talk about. So maybe we can ask, did you hear from the children?
Yeah. Have you talked to our kids today? Have you Skyped our kids in Australia today?
And then when that gets finished, there's nothing to talk about.
That's right.
Because this God thing between the two of you is no longer there. This friendship, this kindred of spirit is kind of gone. And I believe also that people who have a negative view of marriage don't typically help build a healthy marriage. And some of the negative views of marriage come from examples of culture sometimes, of modern ways of how marriage is being defined. And that removes the Christ thing that is supposed to be embedded deep down there. And I think getting on the same page and beginning to build that major area between a couple helps to build a healthy relationship. And I think we need to make peace with the past. When I became pastor, I think one of your struggles was about the picture of pastor you had in your mind from the past.
Yes, I had this picture of pastors in the rural area, because that's where I grew up, and my dad being a pastor in the rural area, he was very poor, and he would leave home very early in the morning. He comes back in the evening. He is tired, and he had no strength even to kind of like sit with the family. And I said, I am not going to get married to a pastor because this is not the kind of life that I want. And that narrative still exists in our churches or in our villages or in our homes today. It exists, and we cannot deny it. But we must change that narrative.
Yeah.
Because after working together and just getting to hear what God was calling him to, it took me time to agree, but he had said he will not get into full-time ministry until he works together with me. And we had to pray. Seriously, we prayed, and we heard from God. He spoke. And then, when God speaks, you cannot keep dilly-dallying there. When God speaks, you move. Yeah. So I had to move.
But does it mean that the painful things about pastors and your view of pastors was totally removed?
No, it is still there.
Yeah.
Pastors, the majority of you here are pastors. You will agree with me that it's draining.
It's tough.
It's a tough job,
yeah.
But with God. Yeah. And with your partner number one, team member number one, you can make it.
Yeah, you're able to share the pain.
Yes.
You're able to go through things together.
That's right.
You're able to tell each other what work was like and how to pray about it. Not from a negative sense, but from a positive sense of staying together on the same page and working together. What's the second thing?
The second thing is prioritize your spouse. And what does that mean? A happy marriage starts when you marry the person you love. And it blossoms when you start loving and working with the person you married. When you begin to work with this person, then you realize, hey, this person thinks differently. This person has different ideas. And sometimes if you want them just to take in your ideas and not you to listen to their ideas, it becomes difficult. That's where you make a choice to continue loving them. And your spouse must move from being the person you marry to a partner and a person you can be vulnerable with. Share the things that you wouldn't share with anyone else. And what does that do? It makes the two of you now go to God together.
And
you
you're able,
you're
able to connect at a very deep level.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because I think sometimes pastors, and this one we have talked a lot about, you know, pastors, they work more with people of the opposite sex that they need to have some boundaries so that they are not too vulnerable with such people. Otherwise, they may end up, you know, falling.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So instead of spending all your time with the people from the opposite sex, we have found out with my husband that when we work together, when we share things together, then we encourage each other, we are able to pray for each other, because these bodies can fall anytime. They can be tempted anytime. And we just want to make sure that we are accountable to each other. So
yeah,
that
we tell each other where we are struggling.
Yes,
and
yes.
we walk with each other. And even when you feel your mind is kind of going wayward, you're able to talk to each other.
That's true.
You know,
That's
you're able
true.
to speak to each other about
you confide in each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And then prioritizing your spouse changes things in the way a couple relates. Putting your spouse first shows others what right priorities and order are all about. Yeah. So that's the first person you share things with. That means they are the first priority in your life.
And I think sometimes, you know, work has become priority number one.
Yeah.
For most of us pastors.
That's true.
We spend so much time at work, which is not bad. But by the time we come home, we are bringing our wives or our spouses a very tired body.
Like my father, he would come home very tired.
Yeah.
I kept going back that he would come home very tired.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I had said, you know what, getting married to a pastor who comes home and he's bringing home a tired body, a tired mind, not me.
And I remember, if I could be vulnerable a little bit, the early days of my being senior pastor. I would come a little bit tired and it worried you.
Yes, yes, yes. It was very difficult because even I remember when our son was growing up, our firstborn, and he needed a dad to be there to show him how to shave. He started trying by himself because he was very busy, and he cut himself here and here.
Yeah, and you know, those are things you want to have seen them grow that thing
Yes.
called a beard.
Yes.
You want to be there to help them trim it. It's like the first haircut.
Yes.
You know, for your boys, you want to be there to help them cut the hair.
Yeah.
And even girls. I mean, you find that a pastor, you're so busy, and the next thing is that a baby comes in the house that you never knew, and or a girl is coming and tell you that I'm dating, and you never prepared her.
Yeah, even without a baby, this girl might be confiding in the people out there who are telling her the wrong things.
Yeah.
Like they get into other issues of
Yeah.
drug addiction and all that. But if she had these two parents talking to her and encouraging her, then it's not easy for her to get into those things.
Yeah. And the third area is a couple must have a clear vision in mind. Clear vision. Where are you going as a couple? I think most pastors believe like, mimi ndio nimeitwa. I'm the one who has been called. And they really don't share with their spouses, where is this place you have been called to go? Can you also tell me so that I can go with you?
Yes.
So we end up frustrated because our spouses have no idea where you're going. It's also sad that even financially, that we never tell each other where we are going financially. So what happens to the money that a little, even if it's that little, that the church gives you? Where does it go? We never really share everything. There are some things, it is for me, mimi ndio mchungaji. I'm the pastor. I determine what to do with that money, and I can give you what you can get. But really, they have no say in what happens with your finances. What has happened with our finances, me and you?
We actually have a joint account. We have always had a joint account from the time we got married. And each of us has a card. We have access to the account, both of us. And sometimes even if he's not able to go there, he will send me, say, go get the money and let's do this and this and this. If we needed to give money to our parents, we will discuss and we'll say, can we give our parents this much money? And we also looked at both sides and we will say, these parents here need a different kind of support. And these ones on this side need a different kind of support. So it's not always money. Sometimes maybe parents on one side just want us to pay school fees for maybe one of the children. The other ones maybe just need some money to do something. So it was not like, oh, since you gave to parents A, we also must give the same to parents B. That's not how we did it. We looked at the needs in each home. So we were always discussing.
Yeah. We both have the access.
Yes.
My wife, sometimes I would forget the PIN number. She knows the PIN number. But I think it's a bit sad that in a marriage, two people who are married and they are pastors, actually, they don't know each other's financial status. We try to keep it a secret. I think also the other sad part is that even their children, we've never taught them financial management and allowed them to see how we manage money. So that becomes a bit difficult. And I think for us, we try our best. The way we manage money between us, we try to teach it to our children. Yeah.
And if one of our children asked us for money and maybe asked me, and I would say, oh, I don't have it right now. Can you talk to your dad? Then they would ask, and he would send it to them.
Yeah.
Even our daughter right now, she feels free to ask any of us. It's not just, oh, let me ask mom because I get along well with the mom. She feels free to ask the father. She will ask me. And that is how we have taught them. And then the other thing comes to mind. The money issue, sometimes you'll find that if we are not open, one spouse can even choose to go and take a loan and doesn't tell the other one. And the money comes into the account, and the other one might wonder what is happening without realizing that there's a loan that was taken, and this person didn't disclose, and they're just paying a loan, they're paying a loan. And sometimes, for pastors, if your church is a member of a cooperative, or you have registered your church in the cooperative, then in the church, just like the church, you decide that the church will take money, and the wife is wondering, now that money was taken from the cooperative for the church, and what are we getting from this church? So it's always good to share those things and hear your spouse out. If she has fears or he has fears, share them and pray together about that.
I think the other area that we struggled a bit, but God helped us to walk through in terms of developing common vision and having a clear vision ahead was giftings. Yes, I know